It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Brewdog and it's a collaboration with Aldi and it's their Ald IPA. It's been described as an own label session IPA coming in at 4.7% ABV. Own label IPA, so united we stand for better beer, fiercely defiant and independent. There you go, 4.7% ABV. I picked this up today, 13th of October 2020. Tuesday. It's either the 13th or the 14th. I think it's the 13th. Tuesday the 13th. Okay Google, what's the date today?
It is Tuesday the 13th of October 2020.
Thursday. Tuesday, the 13th of October 2020. There we go. Two finger, white head, good levels of carbonation. Pale, straw coloured beer. Clear to look at. They've had a bit of time to work this out, so I'll tell you the whole story later on once we have a few sips of this beer. But they've had about 3 to 4 weeks to work on this beer and sort this collaboration out. It was a whole Twitter incident that happened, but let's get the aroma on this straw coloured beer. Without any doubt, a Brewdog beer, without any doubt at all. This was £1.40 for a can. And in terms of the aroma, it's not bad. It's not bad. There's a little bit of tinned pineapple, grapefruit. Oh, there's something there I can't put my finger on. Like sweet Haribo, pineapple Haribo sweets. Touch of tangerine. Let's dive into this one. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's put a cheeky smile on my face, that. Very nicely carbonated. It's very light, very sessionable, very drinkable. I know after speaking to James Watts, when did I speak to James Watts? About 2 months ago, I know that they've changed when they brought out the Double Punk, and I really enjoyed that beer. The 330 can version from Brewdog's website. I really enjoyed it. I've not tried the Tesco version of the beer in the 440 can, but I really enjoyed the beer that I got from Brewdog myself, the Double Punk. It was a really tasty beer. And having a chat with James Watts of Brewdog, what he said to me was that they've changed their head brewer. They've changed their head brewer and they're working really hard on their core range. And for me, that's great. I mean, that's fantastic to hear. That's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. When a company like Brewdog has like 120% growth each year for the last decade, then you're gonna get these kind of massive fluctuations in quality. For a time about 2 years ago, I would say they went through a bit of a bad patch, and I don't need to go too far into that now because we've covered all of that an awful lot, and I don't want to kind of dig up any of that kind of part of Brewdog's history anymore, because I say it's part of Brewdog's history because I think they've moved away from that. I really think they've moved away from that. This is a Decent Session IPA. For the money. You're paying £1.40 for a can of this beer. It's 4.7% ABV. It's tropical, it's piney, there's some grapefruit in it, there's pineapple chunks, it's orange peel, fleshy blood orange. All you can wish for, really, for a session IPA at a very good price point. It's exceptionally drinkable, really, really refreshing. Carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. And so, how did this beer come about? It's got a lovely bitterness on the back end as well. A nice balance between that light, crisp kind of wafer cracker bread, sweet malt to begin with, and then a nice bitterness on the back end. So how did this beer come about? So Aldi brought out a beer that looked very much like Punk IPA. I don't think it was I think it was the same ABV. I think it was, yeah. It was the same ABV, looked very much like the previous branded design of Punk IPA before they changed it again, where the writing was written down the side. A bit like that, where everything was written down the side of the can. They've now gone to this design here where it's all on the front, but previous it was all kind of like that, written down the side. So somebody put on Twitter, oh my goodness me, look at this, you know, this beer looks a spit of Punk IPA. And when I saw it on Twitter, I thought, you know, 4Pure would have had a bit of a issue with this particular branding as well. It looked a little bit like the 4Pure IPA. Anyway, James Watt and Aldi have I imagine it was James Watt. I think it might have been James Watt's account, or it was Brewdog's actual account. But anyway, it was probably James Watt. They had a discussion over Twitter, and everybody was listening, watching, reading, and they decided over Twitter that they would brew a beer together, and they come up with the idea over Twitter. It was all fascinating, very fascinating to watch and look and just to see how a collaboration is worked out, really. And it was done over Twitter so everybody could see. So they got to this, and this was only, as I mentioned earlier, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they've turned this around really quickly. The design, bang, got it out there, bang, brewed the beer. The beer would have taken about 3 to 4 weeks to brew and ferment out and be a decent beer. But it's classic Brewdog. But classic good Brewdog. You can taste the freshness in the beer. You get that light malt. Crisp, refreshing, tasty, hoppy, spiky, tropical. It's 4.7% ABV. I would say it's a slightly more, I'm not going to use the word dumbed down, I'm going to use the word slightly more sessionable version of the original or the 5.4% ABV Punk IPA. So if you want something that is £1.40 a can, if like me you do a lot of sessioning of beer, I do a lot of sessioning of beer here on the channel, you've only got to watch the Stone Crow Virtual Pub to see that I love sessioning beer. This 4.7% ABV beer is probably the right beer for me. Right ABV. I could do 8, 9, perhaps 10 cans of this over a 4 or 5 hour session. Nice lacing on the glass. Nice looking beer, nice smelling beer. And one more thing before I go. I was going to mention it, and then I forgot. So we're back here again. But it was a very grown-up way of sorting out this particular issue. It was a very grown-up way. The two companies got together on Twitter. They had a discussion. Instead of going through the courts and trademarks and blah, 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 Brewdog probably wouldn't have won because it never mentioned Punk IPA once. It was the same ABV. They didn't put Brewdog on the can, so it would have been a difficult slog for Brewdog to get this beer taken off the shelf, and it was done amicably. It was done amicably over Twitter, and I think a lot more, a lot of companies should take this on board and maybe take it as a lesson. I remember a company in Cardiff called their beers Bare Naked, and how on earth Pepsi managed to take this company to court? They had to change their whole branding. Artisan Beers in Cardiff, they had to change their whole branding because they called their beers Bare Naked Beers. How on earth has that got anything to do with Pepsi? Yet they sued them. The other one as well was the S43 brewery with the they brought out a beer that sounded a lot like a Snickers bar. That could have been done amicably. That could have been done where maybe they call it Snickers or something with Mars, you know. But no, they had to take their beer. They had to take the beer down. A cease and desist order came from Mars, and you don't want to mess with a company like Mars. This was done properly. This was done amicably, properly, like grown-ups. They just basically got together, had a chat, ironed things out in public over Twitter, and come up with this. And that's the best possible solution for Aldi and Brewdog. They both won. They both won. So I'm going to rate it. Good levels of carbonation. Good looking beer. Lovely aroma. It's like tutti fruity flavours in the aroma here now as I'm really able to wash the beer around. For the price, for that £1.40, I've had far worse beers than that. I don't mind saying, from Aldi. I've had far worse beers than that from Aldi. That is a pretty decent beer for the money. I like that enough to give it an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! Cheers!